You're up, Charlie. Now.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Arms Society podcast. My name is Charlie Cook, and I am the ringmaster for this evening. I host a show called Riding Shotgun with Charlie. I'm honored to be here on March 31st, 2021. Glad I got the date right. And I have a cast of characters with me, and we are going to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the goings-on in the gun community. First person I would like to introduce is the gentleman, I think he's below me, is Tom Knighton. Tom Knighton is a writer for Bearing Arms. He is a Star Wars fan, and I forget who the other flag is for.
Firefly.
Firefly. I don't know Firefly. Sorry.
What?
It was. I know. Well, it's been nice having everybody on the show tonight. Firefly was a Clint Eastwood movie back in the 80s, if I remember right.
You're talking Firefox, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. We have... moving on.
Now
we have
Charlie
John...
Fail Pop Culture 101.
Right. We also have with us author of Decoding Firearms, John Petrolino. John also writes for JM4 Tactical, for AmmoLand, and he is one of the newest writers at Bearing Arms. Welcome, John.
Thank you for having me, Charlie. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you this evening.
It's always great. And then, of course, pushing all of the buttons is the deputy director of new media for the Second Amendment Foundation, Paul Lathrop.
Hey, everybody, thanks.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Let's put it that way.
Yes, watching this train wreck as Charlie steers here. Well, it is honestly, it was about a week and a half ago when we all saw each other at the Florida Carry event, which was a lot of fun. I didn't know that Tom was going to be coming, and John, I think John was the one that pointed him out, and he said, "Hey, there's Tom Knighton. He's the guy that's going to be on with us in a few weeks." So I said, "Oh, cool. I'll have to go over and say hi." And it was great that John was able to sneak away from his family vacation and spend a day with all of his pro-gun folks.
You know, and kudos to John's wife, because she recognized that, you know, just a little distance away were all these gun nuts, and John really belonged with us, and so she sent him away.
And mad props to my wife, and she's great. And she did say, "These are your people. You must be with your people." So I went, and it was awesome.
It was cool.
It really was a great time. I wasn't. It was last minute. I decided to go, but I regret nothing about the trip except my hotel.
That sounds like a story.
The love of I-75 right outside my window was just fantastic, along with Florida 400, which was like 5 lanes right there by my window. And apparently they did not believe in soundproofing when they built this hotel. So I had traffic noises all night long.
Wonderful.
Well, I had, yeah, I hear you. I think my roommate snored most of the time, but that's okay. I'm sure I did as well. So anyway,
I was not his roommate. I'm innocent.
You are not. This is true. This is true. All right, so let's talk about some stuff that you guys have been up to. Let's talk about some stuff that you guys have been up to. I know John has been cranking out articles, and I know Tom cranks out articles as well about a lot of things that are going on. And John's from New Jersey. Let's talk about some stuff that's going on in New Jersey, John. You may have an article on Bearing Arms about permits and the legal challenge in the Gadsden state. So let's talk about that.
Sure. So last week, it was on Monday, the press releases came out about this, and the case's name is Kendrick versus Grual. And this is a really historic case, and what makes it so historic is there are 2 national-level Second Amendment organizations and 3 New Jersey-based Second Amendment organizations, as well as 3 private citizens that are on this case. And it is targeting New Jersey's permits to purchase pistols and firearms identification cards. And Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition are the national organizations that are behind this. And then you have the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, CNJFO, and the Association of New Jersey Rifle Pistol Clubs, ANJRPC, as well as NJ2AS, getting behind this. And this is the first time ever that all of these organizations have come together to combat anything in New Jersey. So I'm really excited about this. I'm really happy to see all the groups that I'm a member of or I contribute to be able to basically attack this unconstitutional provision in the law.
I got to say, I'm glad to see that the 3 gun families in New Jersey are getting together. The 3 families are
right.
are going to be working it out and sticking it together, right?
Right.
Let's just hope
they're going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah.
GMTA, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was like,
and the big problem is, like, New Jersey, much like Illinois, and the issues that they have is like these permitting delays. You have people waiting weeks and weeks and months and sometimes past a year. And the Jersey law is 30 days is the statute that they have once you've got your application incomplete, and they're supposed to approve or deny you in 30 days. Now, we are hearing reports under our new all-electronic system that there are jurisdictions that are granting permits within a week, which actually is also within the law because New Jersey does have a 7-day waiting period on the purchase of firearms, of pistols. So that's one thing that is there in the law that people often forget because we have an onerous permitting system that usually takes more than the 30 days. So in certain regards, things are going well for certain jurisdictions, but in many of the others, you have many months, if not people are waiting on stuff from last year. And of course, this is nothing new, but now they have the pandemic that they're leaning on, saying, well, with the pandemic, we can't do these background checks and we can't do this, that, or the other thing. And the real question is, well, do you do the background checks on people when you bag and tag them, when you arrest them? Do you do the background checks when you pull these people over? Yes, you do. When somebody gets pulled over, they run their information in the system. It's not much more different than having to run the New Jersey special NICS background, because we don't use the national NICS system, we use the New Jersey system, and they extort more money out of us as well. So this is something I'm really excited about. And so I wrote about that last week on Bearing Arms, that I think that dropped on Friday or Thursday or something like that. And, we'll see what happens. I'm very hopeful about it.
The electronic system, I read something about this in another article, and I wasn't clear on it because it said it was an electronic licensing system, and that sounds to me like the government has a digital license that they give you, and if they have a digital license they give you, they can take it down and lose the file and delete it and change your information, and that's really scary to me. Mm-hmm. Is that what it is?
So with the system now, they have the electronic pistol permit purchaser system. Whether or not they're going to move into an electronic firearms ID card system has yet to be determined conclusively. I've heard rumors that it is going to go that way as well, and that's going to be interesting to see how that fleshes out. But with the pistol purchaser's permit in New Jersey, you have to remember, for every single handgun that you purchase, you need a permit for that specific gun and a certificate of registry. So if I want to go and buy a new handgun, I got to go to the police department. I've got to apply to them and put in for more permits, and then they grant you those permits, and then you go with your paper permit down to the gun store, and then they fill it out. Well, now it's all electronic, so once the police department's done, they hit the button, and it goes into the system, and the FFLs have access to that, and they could just pound it out and see, okay, you've got X number of pistol purchaser permits on file, which are good for the next 30 days, 90 days, whatever, and that's how they process it. So it's not like in Massachusetts where once you have your permit, it's your permit, and you just renew it, and you can buy whatever you want without abandon. No. Every single firearm that's a pistol in New Jersey has its own piece of paper.
You know, that seems like it might be working kind of okay, but I just want to bring up really quick the Obamacare website, or the website to register assault weapons in California. Neither of those websites ever worked.
I just want to say how sad it is to find a place where Massachusetts looks more free than. I mean, that's just horrifying.
Right.
And it's very true. It is.
John said Jersey going, man, I wish we had it as good as Illinois and Massachusetts. and that's just wrong. On every level, wrong.
Right. And
I don't want to talk.
Being from... Good.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I was just going to say, being from originally from Illinois and living in Massachusetts, you've got to ask yourself, do you want a punch in the face or a kick in the stomach is really what it's like.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I thought you were going to say being from New Jersey is bad enough. But then you get all this other stuff.
I want to get in a social media comment. This one comes from John, Sandhill Shooter, and I want everybody to know this is firmly tongue-in-cheek when he does this. I propose we institute background checks and a permit to exercise your Fourth Amendment rights as well. Bring back stop and frisk for the people without a permit. Crime will go way down. And just
sure.
as an homage to John here, I want to let everybody know that every week the Armed Society podcast starts at 6 p.m. Central Time, the only time zone that matters.
So you're losing that argument 3-1 tonight.
No, 3-2. Dude, Sandhill Shooter's on my side. Really, he is.
He's not on the show tonight. So we'll have another session. We get 2 East Coast guys. I know we'll get 2 East Coast guys and 2 Central guys. We'll make that happen too. All right. What else do we have going on in New Jersey? There is. I've been listening to the Gun for Hire podcast, and they have been playing some excerpts from a speech that a 19-year-old man has given, and he's getting a lot of flack trying to get a gun license. They're calling his mother. They denied his permit. They didn't respond to him for like 90 days, and then all of a sudden, after he goes out and goes to a town meeting, all of a sudden they're able to make his permit the next day, and then 2 or 3 days after that, they withdrew his permit. This is insanity in New Jersey.
Right. So the article just came out yesterday on Ammo Land, and basically the individual's name is Avi Roshlin, and he's from Freehold, New Jersey. And the quick and dirty, I can summarize the whole thing, is that he applied for a permit for his firearms identification card going back to October, and there was permitting delays, and he reached out to the police department many, many times. What's the deal with my paperwork? And then he started emailing with the township, and eventually was emailing the mayor, and he's getting very little relief. And on one hand, there's a certain naivety here because, you know, Avi's not in the gun community in New Jersey, so he really doesn't know that this is almost normal. It's horrible to say that, but waiting on paperwork can happen. It's wrong. They have 30 days to handle all this. Now, whether or not his application was complete when he handed it in or not, I mean, that's all we're not going to have any of that information. But Avi did go to the town hall meeting, like you noted, and that's where we all got introduced to him, where he made his, speech to the councilman saying, "Look, I want some relief here. I need some help, and I'm waiting on my permit, and there's no action." So that was circulating for a while, and it took some time, but we hunted Avi down, and I got a hold of him. I spoke to Avi, and the story goes on. So after that, he ended up being told that he was accepted, right? You heard that portion of the story where they says, okay, now this is coming from Avi, that the police said, your permit's good to go. And then a couple of days later, they get back to him and say, your permit's not good to go. We need you to get a letter from a mental health professional because you indicated that you sought outpatient care. Okay, so he went back to the person that he sought outpatient care from. He got a letter from that therapist saying that he wasn't a danger to himself or others or whatever was in the letter. I have not read that letter. Submitted that to the chief of police, and the chief of police said, nope, we need an actual psychiatrist, not a therapist or whatever terminology that they used. At which time, basically, Avi went back to the town hall meeting to address the council a second time, going over, all of this and then some. And his closing remark was, he said, if you feel confident that me having an FID card is a public safety issue, then deny my permit now. Take your name, reputation, and sign on the dotted line next to the rejection box on my application. And apparently that's what they did. So he ended up getting a day or two later on the electronic system that his permit was denied. So what's going to happen next, it's hard to tell. I know Avi wants to go forward and appeal this. At the end of the day, to me, the biggest portion of this issue is he put in his paperwork in October. We're at the end of March right now. This is ridiculous. With the systems being electronic, if there was a holdup for whatever reason, whether it was they wanted a letter from a mental health professional or if he didn't dot his I properly, they could have called him, they could have sent them a letter, they could have done a number of things. And meanwhile, on his end, he was being proactive to talk to them about that. So I did talk to the chief of police over in Freehold. He and I had a nice short chat about it. And, the one thing that he gave me on the record was we're just following the guidelines set forth with New Jersey firearms permitting regulations. Okay. And then I kind of put the pins to him and I asked him to comment on why this is beyond the 30 days statutory requirement of approving or denying. And I asked him if he has a comment to that, and he resounded with, I do not. So no comment. So anyhow, that's what's going on here, and we'll see what happens with Avi. We're gonna follow up with him, and hopefully gets all of this stuff straightened out. But to our former topic, that's why this Kendrick case versus Gruwal is so important, because this permitting process is absurd, and there's no reason why we should have to do anything other than pass our NICS check at this point. I mean, it's 2021. All of the information is warehoused in the computers, and if they need to fix NICS, then, the states need to get on that and make sure they're doing the proper reporting. But otherwise, in my opinion, if you pass the NICS, you should be good to go.
I want to bring in a social media comment. Rosie, David Rosenthal, says, New Jersey motor vehicles computers are crap. I think an electronic ID card would lead to lots of abuse. If I go to Pennsylvania to buy a long gun and don't have my paper ID card, then what happens?
I'm pretty sure that's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah. And Charlie, we are getting all kinds of background, I'm going to call it squiz from your microphone. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm getting lots of extraneous noise from your microphone.
Okay. I apologize. I'll I'll see if I can rig it and see if something will work better. Yeah, Rosie's got a great point. I mean, what ideally what should happen if he goes to another state is that he they do an instant background check on him, and he takes a rifle or shotgun home with him, right?
Right.
Should be pretty simple, like a regular standard process to purchase.
Yeah.
Some of the comments that came up while John was talking. Kevin Sona is on a 3-day ban, and I saw that he says hello, Kevin, and John Anderson. I will definitely get you on the next time I have one of these. I'll invite you, brother. Now,
let me check my calendar here quick, just to go on a side trip here. But I think John is scheduled to do one of these in a 3 weeks. So he may just be blowing smoke at you, bud.
Well, he didn't invite me.
There you go.
So, there you go. All right, let's keep moving on. Speaking of people who are not passing background checks, who should be who can't pass background checks, let's talk about Hunter Biden. Tim, you wrote a story about Hunter Biden. Now, we know he wouldn't pass a background check, but he seems to know people in high places. He's a high person that knows people in high places.
Well, he's on their level through pharmaceuticals.
There we go.
Better living through chemistry is Hunter Biden's motto. And yeah, he obtained a firearm that was disposed of by his then girlfriend, who dumped it in a trash can. And there's been all kinds of shenanigans.
His then girlfriend, who used to be his sister-in-law, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Because really, there's not enough soap opera in the Biden family. They needed to, to go that route too, because
they want to make sure the family tree doesn't branch.
And they make fun of the South.
Right.
I've never dated my sister-in-law.
Cousins may be a different story, but not sister-in-law, right?
Anything beyond first cousin's fair game. But back on the
how about those Red Sox? Right. So Hunter Biden.
So back to Hunter. She threw the gun in a trash can. He kind of freaked out, went back later to try to find it. Apparently this trash can was near a school. I mean, it was just everything was handled wrong on every level. But then there's been the sort of a cover-up attempt. We can't definitively say what's going on, but been some indication the Secret Service was involved trying to obtain the records. I believe the ATF now have the purchase records. The fact of the matter is the time frame when Hunter bought this gun is about the same time frame as the pictures of him asleep with a crack pipe in his mouth.
Okay.
Form 4473 says, "Are you abusing drugs?" So it looks like he may have lied.
Maybe he thought that abusing drugs means beating them up, and he wasn't beating up drugs.
Well, right, that would be his. We're pretty sure his dad would believe that.
He was enjoying them.
Of course, his dad would probably.
Them up.
Right.
That's right. There's no abuse. It was mutually enjoyable. Yeah. He looked at the drugs and says, "Can I use you?" And they said, "Yes, Hunter, use me." So it's consent, therefore not abuse.
Right.
But I mean, it's the fact of the matter is what Hunter did would land any of the four of us in jail, under the jail, almost immediately. There would be no attempt to try to, smooth things over. No, well, shucks, it was just a mistake. It was just a misunderstanding, blah, blah, blah. And I when I wrote about this, I couldn't help but think about the similarities with Hillary Clinton's email server. That, again, we have a case of someone prominent doing something that not that different than what other people have been imprisoned for, walking.
Right.
And it's what Ayn Rand used to call the aristocracy of pull. That if you create an aristocracy because you have connections, so the rules don't apply to you the same way it does to everybody else. We say we're a nation of laws, not a nation of men, but the laws aren't really going after some of these people. If you're connected enough, you're...
Oh, and there he goes. There he goes. Okay, he's back. I want to bring up a social media comment here because it's really pertinent. DJ Play Nice says, "Yep, this issue is odd. States join the legal marijuana roll every year. Federal prohibition, mixed message."
It's a good point.
Improperly handling a firearm near a school is a felony. You can serve some time in Ohio for this crime, Diane says.
And Ohio tends to be a little more friendly than Delaware about something like that.
Yes, they do.
Right. Like, how could somebody, I'm going to use the term loosely here, a level-headed adult think it's okay to take someone's gun and throw it in the trash?
Yeah.
Right.
Like that.
I mean, it's...
My question on this
it's not like this is somebody who hadn't been around politics. This is not like somebody who hadn't been around the Second Amendment discussion at all.
Right.
You cannot say that... I cannot fathom this woman being so absolutely clueless to the Second Amendment discussions and gun control discussions to not think, throwing a gun in the public trash can might not be the best way to get rid of it.
The other thing I want to bring up is this, and not that it makes one bit of difference one way or another. I'm just curious about it. Was the gun loaded, and loaded as we consider loaded, meaning one in the chamber, when it was thrown away? That's.
I think it was a revolver.
That's a good question.
Wasn't it?
Okay. Well, then revolvers are automatically one in the chamber because.
Right. Was it? I don't know, Tom. Do you remember?
I don't remember what it was exactly. A revolver. In fact, now I'm wanting to say it was a 357, but I couldn't swear to that. It's been a while since I looked at that particular bit of data on the subject.
I think I remember reading.
It really doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Which, arguably worse because guess what? Revolvers don't have safeties.
Yes. David Rosenthal, Rosie again, name the last arrest of a falsified 4473 applicant. There aren't any. Maybe the feds ought to get on that instead of persecuting the law-abiding gun owner. And I'll tell you why that often doesn't happen is because it's not good for the state's attorney. It's not showing... quite often, when... You will not find prosecutions for that. You will not find prosecutions, especially for straw purchases, because a straw purchase is overwhelmingly a woman. And when it's found out there was a straw purchase, it is because the woman bought a gun, the guy she bought the gun for does something bad, and all of a sudden you've got a single mother and you're going to go prosecute this single mother. 4473s are quite a lot like that. There's just no upside for a prosecutor to prosecute lying on a 4473. Other than doing their job, there's no political upside.
Yeah,
I think it's... They don't...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, they keep wanting to pass gun control, and yet here's this one bit that we were told was absolutely essential. Absolutely essential. We have got to have these paperwork. We've got to have these background checks. We've got to do this. It's the only way to stop guns from getting in the hands of criminals and the deranged and all this stuff. And they can go in and try to buy it. And if, they get great. If not, there's no punishment. Sutherland Springs killer, based on the way he purchased his guns about a year apart, I half think he was testing to see if his dishonorable discharge ever got in the system. Knowing there wouldn't be any repercussions if it came up that he did.
Interesting. It seems like all this stuff should be coming up in background checks, whether they were discharged or if they've had some previous drug charges. I mean, this is what we're scared into believing all the time. When people say, well, I don't have a gun license, I want to apply for one, but I had a couple of speeding tickets when I was in my 20s. Is this going to come back and haunt me? I was got drunk at a party in college. Is this going to come back and haunt me? It certainly depends on where you live, but if this stuff comes up, it comes up, and then they maybe should stop these people. But if it doesn't come up, then it doesn't come up, I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems ridiculous.
It's still, we've got to... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's ridiculous that that Hunter Biden's getting a pass on all of this stuff because his father's the president.
Well, and even his father was the former vice president when it happened, and his father wasn't in power.
His father wasn't in power.
His father was still considered the front runner for the nomination the next time around, which is part of the reason I think the Secret Service may have stepped in, even though they were not part of a Biden protection detail at the time.
Okay.
We've seen a lot of left-leaning officials of the Department of Justice, FBI, to say that it can't be any in the Treasury Department would be ridiculous. Maybe someone was trying to score brownie points with the guy they thought would be the next boss.
Could be.
I don't know.
The other thing that
I'll speculate.
The other thing that freaks me out is when the FBI or the ATF, whichever alphabet group it is, they go to a gun store and then they ask for the 4473s and the sales records. Like, are you going to trust these guys with this stuff? They're supposed to sign off on this and say everything's okay or everything's not okay. And then if they're coming to do stuff that looks a little shady, it's probably going to be a little shady. And if they're not coming in officially as an ATF or the BATFE or whatever, if they're not coming in to go through your records, they're looking for one record specifically so they can eliminate it. If you give them the record so they can take it away, that's not going to look good either, because that means that you're giving up your information, and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's
and
how
much of a case is somebody? Oh, we need this information, so you give it to them, and then later, a year later, they come into an audit and then try to hit you because you don't have records for this firearm you sold.
Yeah, it's
you don't have the 4473 corresponding with it. They would have to. Hopefully, there was some kind of receipt filled out, something to say, we have this document, you're covered. But I don't know whether there is. I wouldn't be real trusting of, I wouldn't just assume that's the case. It's not like the ATF is known to be friendly towards gun stores.
Right?
Exactly.
Or dogs.
Or dogs, yeah, especially dogs.
Or dogs. All right. What else do we have? Anything else we need to talk about with the Hunter Biden situation?
I think one of the things that I love from Tom's piece, if I just read this one quote, and he hits the nail on the head, and this summarizes everything that he just said, was, if anyone should be upset about Hunter's flouting of the law, it should be the folks like Watts, right, Sharon Watts. I mean, they're violating gun laws already on the books. It's not enough to just pass new gun laws, but existing laws need to be enforced. And then Tom throws his little tongue-in-cheek at the end. At least if I understand the gun control position as stated correctly, right? And I think that summarizes the complete spirit of what's going on here. And it's what something that Anthony Calandra would say is good for me, but not for thee. This is what we've got.
Yeah. Well, and Shannon Watts has been remarkably quiet about the Hunter Biden situation. She's been, just silent about it. So is Michael Bloomberg. So have, Fred Gutenberg and, David Hogg, and all of them are just remarkably quiet about this crap. They can spout about, you know, the evils of the NRA, the evils of gun right activists in general, the evils of the Second Amendment, the evils of everything under the sun, except when one of their own is caught doing something wrong. And something else I brought up was, you know, actress Rose McGowan, who was knee-deep in the Me Too movement. She and I probably don't agree on a whole hell of a lot, but I respect her because she's at least consistent. You know, she doesn't care you know, somebody's sexually harassing. She's like, no, they're scum too. I don't care if I agree with them on 90% of the stuff. They're complete ball. Well, I respect that. If Shannon Watts would come out and say, no, Hunter Biden, if this happened, he needs to go to jail, I could at least respect it. I don't have anything to respect, and I'm not worried about it. It's not going to happen.
Charlie, this is your show, but I want to lighten things up for about 1 minute and 45 seconds. Do you mind?
Absolutely, rock on.
I can't wait for this.
I love this, by the way. And for those of you who are listening, you got to join us live. If you're catching this on podcast, this is the Riding Shotgun with Charlie clown car video that came out this week. Love this. Shotgun with Charlie. All right, we're getting all kinds of social media commentary about that. It's just, yeah. Charlie, tell everybody how that happened, man.
All right. Well, I knew that I was going to be going down to the Florida Carry event, and I knew a lot of my pro-gun friends and people that have been on the show are going to be there as well. So I wanted to film some shows, and I thought it would be fun to film a show with a lot of people that have been on the show before, just to, you know, wrap everything up about the Florida Carry event. And I said, you know, it'd be really funny is if we could squeeze as many people in as we could, and then put Amy Dillon across everyone's lap. So we right. So we filmed the show like that. But after the event was over, I borrowed Paul's tripod and parked the car over on the side, and I talked to everybody that was there that had been on the show, and I'm like, all right, get in the car and get out of the car. We're going to film it. We're going to edit it and do the clown car thing. And everyone, you know, I said, you can get in how you want to get in. Doesn't matter. But what was really funny is when Paul got out of the car, he made the gesture as if he had some gas. And then I didn't pick up on this, but Dr. John Adine made the screaming face from inside the window. And when I was editing all this, I'm like, oh my God, it is going to be so funny to put Dr. John screaming after Paul gets out and fans his tail off. And so Paul's was great, but I didn't know how great it was going to be to have Dr. John's video until I started to edit it. Oh, man.
I just want to say for the people at home, you don't understand. It was almost as funny watching this be filmed as it was watching it put together. It was. I walked up about the time Amy's climbing in the back, and I'm like, "Oh, I got to see what the hell's going on here."
Oh man, it was too cool. It was so much fun. So much fun.
Donald Hobson says that would detract the Border Patrol in Texas.
Well, funny thing. So we drove out, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes or something, and turned around and came back. On our way back to the campgrounds, we ended up with the police car next to us.
And there was how many in the car at the time? There was like 7 of you in there, wasn't there?
Only 6. There were 4 in the back seat. John was in the passenger, the shotgun seat, and I was in the driver's seat. And of course, we're like, okay, everybody, just act normal, act like this is the way it's supposed to be. Oh man, it was so funny. The funniest thing to me is we get in the car, we're trying to get everyone situated, everyone organized, and Amy climbs in over everyone's lap, and Danny Todd from AZ Firearms and Gun Freedom Radio, he's like, I don't know where to put my hands. Oh my God, it was great. He's like, I don't know, Amy's on top of me. I don't know where to put my hands. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. So much fun. And that was,
that whole
I put the show out.
It was great.
Oh, it really was. It was. And I actually put that show out yesterday. It's episode 99.1 on Riding Shotgun with Charlie. So that was cool.
That whole weekend was just an absolute riot. I had a blast going down there. I had a blast being part of that video. And guys, it was so important to me because it was the first time in a year that we'd all been able to meet in person. And I didn't know how much I missed it till I got it back.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I know, and I always say this too, that people talk about how these are family reunions, and my family, we don't do family reunions. A lot of my siblings live near each other, so I never really got that. But I'd hear people say, "Oh, if you go to the NRA meetings, it's a family reunion. If you go to the SAF, the GRPC, it's a family reunion." And I never really got that until the second year that I went to GRPC. The first year is you go and you meet people and you're like, "Hi, this is what I do," and then you start watching each other all year long on social media, and then you get together again. You're like, "Oh my God, you did this, that, this year. It was really cool, and I saw you doing this. It was really cool." And you have all this stuff in common. And I miss them too. I really do.
Yeah, this is my first year doing anything like this. Paul talked me into it, and then Kevin's like, "Yeah, come on down." And I looked at it on the map. I'm like, "It's 3.5 hours. That's really not that far." So I went down, and oh man, I'm already looking forward to next year. It was a great time getting to meet everybody. And it's the one time I heard people go, "Here, oh, you're Tom Knighton." I didn't go, "Oh crap, what did I do?" It was like, okay, well, if they're here, they probably approve, mostly.
Mostly. Oh man, and John, John, it was your first time meeting people in person, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was really great, and everybody in the community is really wonderful, and just to get together and shake the hands and kiss the babies, it was really great. And what a phenomenal lineup of speakers and everything there. And to Paul's credit, I mean, Paul had filmed everything, so we have the archives of the event, and hopefully soon I'll be finalizing an article kind of just talking about the event as well, and we're gonna throw those videos in there so the whole world will get a little bit more exposure to it and see what the Kevin Sona 4th annual speakers event was all about.
Yeah, I gotta say though, Tom, when I would have to imagine if you are not in the gun community, getting an email or a call from Tom Knighton might be somewhat similar to Mike Wallace showing up on your doorstep.
I'm not so sure about that. Usually I get, "Who?"
Oh.
Thankfully. Outside of the Second Amendment community, I get a lot of, "Who are you?"
Yeah, Yeah,
but, I've
tough.
also gotten on social media, I've gotten a lot of people reaching out before I changed the first name on there to something not Tom. Yeah. But I'd have people reaching out to tell me what kind of a idiot I was. That's always fun. It was kind of funny. I've got a professional page on Facebook, and I've got my personal page. And people on the right didn't agree with me, went to the professional page. People on the left went to my personal page to go after me. It was the weirdest thing.
That's interesting. That is way interesting.
I don't know if it means anything. It was just a pattern I noticed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's bizarre. That's bizarre.
I never had to deal with people really wanting to go after me until I started my current job, and now I just have fun with it. I just have an absolute blast with it. I had one that sent a message to the Second Amendment Foundation on Facebook, which guess who has access to? And so I seen it myself, and then my boss has access to it too. So it's not like I did anything that was inappropriate. But this person wrote "Gone with the Wind," and in a comment, and I didn't even read it all. I just got to the end and feel better, and sent that off. And about a week later, they wrote another novel.
Yeah, people got to get it off their
kind
chest.
of to get on topic. Charlie is we have a colleague that I've been talking to, and even in my own work as well. It's just in the Second Amendment community, for whatever reason, we have these people that we eat our own, and if you work on an article for, let's say, 4 or 5 hours, you'll have somebody that wants to argue about and chastise you over one line for comment after comment, and just try to devalue everything that you've ever said and done because of one sentence or whatever. And it's a problem. And in our community, I've also seen other writers going after different people. And Charlie, you and I kind of talked about this, but we have a friend of ours that was recently gone after over just it's a small little mistake that he made. He did something out of good faith, and next thing you know, he's got hit pieces coming out on him. And we're all on the same team, which is the craziest thing about it. And instead of just calling the individual up on the phone or emailing and say, hey, let's discuss this because are you aware of XYZ thing? No, the guy took an opportunity to write a hit piece, and to me, that's garbage. That's not how we're supposed to be treating each other. Then there are people that get in their own way as well.
Can we open that up a little bit? I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I think you're talking about Anthony Calandro and the gun for hire thing that hit the truth about guns, right?
If you want to talk about that subject, that's your thing, Paul.
Okay, all right. I do.
Okay.
I know Anthony. I interact with Anthony from time to time, not as often as I'd like because we're both extremely busy. But that hit piece that hit the truth about guns, quite literally, they're talking about a paper that is about securing your firearms. Now, the paper happened to be put together, if you read the really tiny print on the back of the card, was put together by Everytown. There was nothing, I've not seen, that the truth about guns didn't feel fit to put the full-size blow-up of the card on the website. So I wasn't able to read it. But I trust Anthony, and what Anthony had said was, look, it looked good to me, and there was good information. So he put it up there with a lot of other good information we have. I trust Anthony on that, and I don't think that just because there is one tiny little thing about Everytown on the back of a card that he needs to be taken task for it. He has done far more good for the gun rights community than any possible negative that this might have caused.
Well, and
yeah, I agree.
I don't really know Anthony. I don't know Anthony, but I just got to say, if the information's good, I don't really care where it comes from. If it's valid information, I'll give them. It's valid. I didn't realize it was from Everytown. It doesn't necessarily invalidate what was said. We debate. Something stupid. We all hit them on it.
Yeah.
But if they say something that makes sense, okay, we'll run with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Anthony's a great guy. I've had a lot of interactions with him, and I'm honored to have him as a friend. I couldn't believe it when I read it. I'm like, this doesn't seem to be right, and doesn't seem to be something that he would do. So you know what I mean? I mean, it is what it is. They wrote this piece on him, and they should just whatever.
I read that article as well, and it was like, there's what's the bigger story here? That you got a story out of nothing. I mean, really. So, I don't know.
And I read a motivational speaker somewhere just talking about comments on social media, and he said 1,000 good comments and 1 + 1 negative comment equals 1 negative comment. So he does an unbelievable amount of stuff in New Jersey, and he likes to keep everything in New Jersey. He supports all the people there. He's got his quarantine crawl. He's building his own range. He calls himself the capitalist marksman. He doesn't care about race or creed or color or religion or sexual preference or anything else. And so he lets, somebody says, hey, can we put this on your counter? He says, yeah, sure. It looks good. It looks legit. And then somebody comes back and crucifies him for it. Sometimes the only thing that people are going to learn about him is that little article, and it's not the rest of the man. Really, it's not.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then again, Charlie, your show, but the other side of the coin. The other side of the coin is Tom's getting ready. Is the Pincus story. And in this one, there's been on social media, there has been a big blow up about an article. Rob Pincus put it on Amaland. It was co-authored with somebody who, forgive me, I don't remember the name, but he used to be with Everytown, and
Gross.
Yes. And the gist of the article, let's face it, I could have written a 500-word article that did what theirs did in about 3,000 words. But what they're doing is they're calling for expanded background checks. For somebody with Rob Pincus' stature in the gun rights community, I honestly think he's committed career suicide. I don't know, other than a straight-up apology and mea culpa, that there's any way he can come back from this. And it seems like instead that he's going for the take no prisoners and I'm the right, the rest of the world is wrong approach.
My issue with expanded background checks is I watched a video with Rob and John Crump. I read the 2 articles that Lee, oh my God, what's his name?
Williams.
Lee the gun writer Williams. Yep, I read his 2 articles. I read the article that Rob and Dan Gross wrote, and I don't get what an expanded background check is. To me, a background check is this. They look to see if you have a criminal history. They look to see if you've been had a DUI, run-ins with the police as far as illegal substances, illegal possession of pot, illegal possession of a pot with intent to distribute, domestic violence, and a mental health history. I don't know how much more you have to go back unless somebody puts the light in your face and blows smoke in your face and says, okay, listen, have you ever been depressed? If you've been depressed and you've had some issues because you went through a divorce, because both your parents died in a car accident. If you've had to get on medication for something to make yourself feel better, you're a drug addict and you shouldn't pass a background check. Or what if they do this? Oh, look at this. You have an ex-wife. Do you get along with your ex-wife? Did you guys argue? Did you yell? Did you get into a fight? Did you get into an argument? Do you have an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend? How come you're not with them anymore? Did you not get along? Did you get into an argument? What do they think about you? Did you say mean things to them? Did you look at their phone? Did you cheat on them? Did they cheat on you? Like, how far expanded does expanded background checks have to go? This is what I don't get.
The other one is, you've never had a girlfriend? Why have you never had a girlfriend or boyfriend? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right. What do you think, Unabomber? I mean, come on.
Yeah. I talked after the piece dropped. I was working on a piece for it, and I just, I know Rob a little bit. We're not like best buds, but every time I've reached out to him for responding. So I like Rob, and I asked him, first of all, are you saying you back universal checks? Because, like I said, there was a lot of words there, and that ammo land story was not clear what exactly they were backing. But it's like, are you backs, and how do you reconcile that with 2AO.org's stance on universal background checks that says clearly against them? And, he tells me, first thing he says is, I am against any background check. And, I think his take is, if it's going to happen, let's fit as much as we possibly can, which, I mean, there's a wisdom in that, if it's going to happen. But on the same pace, on the same hand, he's kind of, this is how we have a productive dialogue. But why does having a productive dialogue always involve us losing out on our rights? Every time it comes up that, we need to have a productive dialogue, what it really boils down to is, hey, you gun rights guys, sit down, shut up, and do what we tell you. No, I'm done. Law Dog, a friend of mine, has a great example of how guns were, by using a cake as an example. They came up one day in 1934 and says, we want your cake. Well, you can't have my cake. Give me half of your cake and we'll call it a compromise. And gun people said, okay, you can have half my cake. That was NFA 34. Then they came and said, well, we want your cake. Well, you can't have my cake. And it's like, well, give us half the cake and you'll call it a compromise. And GCA 68, they take half the cake. And then, they come back and it's, we want your cake, well, you can't have it. Well, we give us half, and it's, it's Brady Bill. And you start off with this whole cake, and now you got this little piece, and it's, we want our back. At this point, we have every compromise they've ever talked about has been simply not taking more, that taking as much as they want.
Right.
We know where their end game is. Right? They want them all. Guns to not exist in the country except in the hands of military and police, and probably not even in there. We know that's what they want. To give them something, okay, see, play nice. No, I'm done playing nice. I'm done. We played nice. Gun rights activists for so many years, and what did it get us? It got us an assault ban. It got us background checks. It got us, can't buy a machine gun built after 1986, even though they're not really used in crime nearly as much as people want to think. Red flag laws, background checks, waiting periods. Been talking about waiting periods since Atlanta. Everything. The works. And we're supposed to be the reasonable ones. They have yet to offer us anything.
Right.
Come up and said, hey, give up bump stocks and we'll give you suppressors.
Yep.
David I think Rosenthal. You'd had a lot of people.
Oops, sorry.
You'd have a lot of us sitting here saying, sure, let's have that discussion. But That's not what they talk about compromise. When they talk about compromise, we want all your guns, but we'll just take the assault weapons now. Well, no, because they're going to come back for more. When you start off here and you meet here, and then it's like, it keeps going until you're over here.
Absolutely, and that's all they do. They just we have givers and takers, and they want to take, and they want us to give, and then after they take, they want to take more, and after they take, they want to take more. So it's nuts. I think go ahead.
I just going to say, I think that Rob is coming from a place that is not as anti-gun as people are viewing him. I think he's coming from a place of ultimately trying to preserve our gun rights as much as possible. I just think it's the wrong approach. But a lot of people are seeing it a different way.
I personally think we need to come at it from an entirely different angle. We need to be coming at it from the angle of, okay, we want all our gun rights back, period. We'll settle with, how about you just remove the 1968 Gun Control Act? But we're going to take our gun rights back, period. Why don't you compromise and we'll just take the 1968 Gun Control Act? That's the way it needs to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's no giving on their end. It's only taking.
Yep.
Just in the pie analogy was great. I was thinking of it like taxes. Like I would certainly love to be a rich man someday, but when people say that the rich people are paying less percentage in taxes, I'm like, yeah, they're writing a bigger check. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the gun control folks. Well, we shouldn't have assault weapons and background checks and bump stocks and all this nonsense. And we're like, okay, like you said with the cake, you want 7 things, but if we give you 6 of them, it's somehow compromising. But we get nothing out of the deal except screwed.
Yeah, we still end up with less rights. And sorry, not interested.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, listen, I hate to do this. I think it's time for us to wrap it up, right, Paul?
It certainly is.
All right. Well, listen, John, Tom, Paul, thank you guys for being on. This is the Armed Society. I want to thank Paul Lathrop. He's the director.
Deputy Director, New Media.
I always get one of them right. It's either the deputy or the director, but it's not both. So thank you for pushing the buttons and hosting, not hosting the show, but, pushing the buttons and doing all the behind-the-scenes stuff and checking with the social media. Tom, where can people find you and all of your stuff?
Oh, you can find me at Bearing Arms, writing a lot. You can also catch me at Twitter at @TomKnighton. You can also, I've got a Substack, tomknighton.substack.com. Usually 4 or 5 stories a week going out. Most are free. There's paid subscription, but you can get plenty of stuff without paying. So come on over and sign up.
All right. Thank you very much. John Petrolino, author of Decoding Firearms, where you write everywhere.
Well, not everywhere, but I am writing mostly for AmmoLand and now Bearing Arms. So hopefully I'll be cranking out some more work with them in an official capacity, as well as some blog posts with JM4 Tactical. So you could find me. The easiest way to get a hold of me is my website, which is johnpetrolino.com. So, and there I usually will put links to some of my work, and also on the webpage you could sign up for a new newsletter that I've just started, where I'm aggregating some of my own work and then also other things that I'm reading or seeing that looks interesting to share with people.
All right, very cool. And I'm Charlie Cook from Writing Shotgun with Charlie. If you do not subscribe to the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel, you should, but you can watch it on YouTube, on Gunstreamer, and on the OpsLens app, which is a great place to get a lot of two-way content. And you can also listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate this. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Armed Citizen. And Paul, we'll see you with some other cool guests next week. Thanks a lot.
We can't hear you, Paul.
Oh, there we go.
Paul, also
Maybe I should turn my microphone back on.
Are we offline?
No, we are not. I was just wanting to say to everybody, thank you for watching, and we had comments coming through right up to the end, and I couldn't get them all on. But thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting, and yeah, come join Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Central Time, the only time zone that matters. We do the Daily Bullet, and on Saturdays at noon Central Time, we have the Weekly Bullet. Monday evening, 6 p.m. Central Time, we have Polite Society Podcast. Come join us for any of those. Thank you for watching, and we'll see